Hello and good evening. You're watching AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin has filed an application to strike out 3 money laundering charges involving about 200 million ringgit linked to the Jana Wibawa project implemented during his administration. The Perikatan Nasional chairman also wants the Sessions Court to grant him a discharge not amounting to an acquittal or DNAA from the charges.
Muhyiddin had already succeeded in his acquittal from 4 power abuse charges linked to Jana Wibawa in August. According to a copy of Muhyiddin's affidavit in support of the DNAA bid, the Bersatu president contended that the 3 money laundering charges are now groundless, with the nullification of the 4 abuse of power charges. On August 15th, the High Court struck out all 4 corruption charges, totaling 232.5 million ringgit against Muhyiddin. Judge Datuk Muhammad Jamil Hussin said the charges brought by the prosecutor did not clearly disclose any offence. The prosecution has since filed an appeal in the Court of Appeal to overturn the High Court's ruling. Muhyiddin faces 3 money laundering charges for receiving proceeds from illegal activities amounting to 200 million ringgit from Bukhari Equity.
The Selayang Sessions Court has fixed 12 days starting in January to hear a case involving Kedah Menteri Besar Mohamed Sanusi Mat Noor, who faced 2 sedition charges over statements he allegedly made against royalty. Judge Noor Raja Mat Singh set January 18th to February 23rd for the trial after receiving the agreement of the prosecution and defence in proceedings today. The Perikatan Nasional Election Director was charged with uttering seditious words regarding the appointment of the Selangor Menteri Besar and the establishment of the unity government during a political speech in July. In other news, Malaysia has sent a letter to Indonesia in an effort to resolve the transboundary haze that has affected the nation. Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Minister Nik Nazmi Nik Ahmad said the letter was addressed to Indonesia's Environment and Forestry Minister Siti Nurbaya Bakar as a follow-up action on the haze issue. According to Nik Nazmi, all ASEAN countries, including Indonesia, had signed the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution in 2002, which requires member states to reduce haze pollution in Southeast Asia. Last week, the Department of Environment Director General Datuk Wan Abdul Latif Wan Jaafar attributed the latest smog in the country to hundreds of forest fires in Indonesia, a claim Indonesia has denied. Earlier, Nik Nazmi said data from the department as well as from Met Malaysia indicated burning outside the country, though he did not mention any specific country. As of noon today, only 2 areas, Sri Aman and IPD Serian in Sarawak, recorded unhealthy air pollution index readings at 115 and 101 respectively. The government expects to save at least 4.73 billion ringgit to 9.47 billion ringgit a year from its shift to a targeted subsidy system. In an interview with Bloomberg TV, Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli says Putrajaya aims to begin targeted subsidies as soon as the second quarter of 2024 to help narrow its fiscal deficit.
For this coming budget next week, I think the market will be excited because finally they will see a concrete move away from the blanket subsidy system that has existed in Malaysia for many years, many decades, towards a targeted subsidy system, because that is key to the fiscal consolidation effort of this administration. I feel that at least for 2024, I feel like the successful implementation of subsidy retargeting program will put us in a much stronger position fiscally, and it will allow us some breathing space so that we don't jump on the new taxes bandwagon too carelessly.
Meanwhile, Malaysia will not restrict the import of agricultural and fish products from Japan as they are safe for consumption. Agriculture and Food Security Minister Datuk Seri Mohamed Sabu said this in response to Tokyo releasing treated water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea recently. He said the Health Ministry always monitors food safety, including conducting radiation inspections, and had confirmed that fish products from Japan were safe for consumption. Few countries, including China and Hong Kong, restricted marine products from Japan following the release of processed radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean in August. India's parliament approved a bill last month to reserve a third of its seats in the lower house and state assemblies for women. What can Malaysia learn from this? Associate Professor Dr. Umu Atia Ahmad Zakwan from UUM discusses if our country should follow suit with its own legal framework to boost female representation in politics.
While we talk about combating bias of social norms, we also need to have a legal framework together as well. Yeah, so it goes hand in hand. So I'm looking at 30% policy, which was introduced by our government in 2004. That is not a full-fledged policy, but it was a policy statement. So if we can strengthen that policy statement, we will be able to introduce other intervention much easier. Yeah, for instance, through that 30% policy, in terms of political domain, we can introduce or we can say promote or suggested to appoint one of the senator to be from women, because in every state, according to Article 45 of Federal Constitution, every state should elect 2 representatives as senators. So if we have this one, if we have full-fledged of 30% policy, so we can suggest at least every state can appoint 1 woman in as a senator. So this is one thing that we can do. Another thing is that we can encourage as well, and I would like all political parties to adopt a voluntary party quota, like what we mentioned just now, 30% quota, which has been adopted by DAP, PKR, and PSM. And you can see it is very evident in the parliament. The biggest number of women MPs are coming from these parties, because they nominated more women and they placed them at the winnable seat.
Dr. Umu Atia also points out lessons Malaysia can learn from other countries in order to promote gender equality. This begins by addressing traditional gender roles.
In order to tackle the underrepresentation of women in politics, so we need to go into many approaches. The first one is to break the autocorrect, the bias social norms. If we give the understanding to the public, to the organization or to political parties, for instance, so slowly they're able to have these receptive ideas that women are also can be leaders. At the same time, when we break these bias social norms, the women themselves this time they realize that they also can be leaders. We see one after another countries are taking action, brave action, challenge the status quo. They took the action. UAE, Timor-Leste, Vietnam, India. But what about Malaysia, right? So I think I think we have been waiting for too long already. So I hope we need to see concrete action taken.
We will go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Asking the tough questions is what we do every day here on Astro AWANI. Catch me every weeknights at 10:30 p.m. across all AWANI platforms.
Welcome back. Authorities in Thailand charged a 14-year-old boy with premeditated murder following a shooting at the Siam Paragon Mall in Bangkok yesterday. 2 people died in the incident and 5 others were wounded. Police said he used a modified gun designed to fire blank rounds. The suspect was also said to have suffered a psychological breakdown. The police said he had been receiving psychological treatment and had not taken his prescribed medication on the day of the shooting. The suspect faces 5 charges, including illegal possessions of a firearm, the illegal carrying of a firearm in public, and illegal discharge of a firearm in public. Meanwhile, Thailand's Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin has vowed to ensure the highest safety measures for all tourists after the shooting incident. He also expressed his condolences to the families involved.
The government is placed a lot of importance on this issue.
Are you concerned that it comes at a time when the visa-free policy has been implemented?
Everything is of my concern, especially anything that is not present happening in this country. Yes, we will make sure that this doesn't happen again.
How the Thai government will bring back confidence?
We are doing what we can at the moment. I think we have the confidence of the tourists.
The victims shot dead in the attack were a national from Myanmar and a visitor from China. Srettha said he had also called the Chinese ambassador to apologize. The shooting came as Thailand stepped up efforts to boost tourism, including offering visa-free entry to Chinese nationals, its biggest source of foreign visitors.
At least 21 people have been killed in Italy after a bus carrying foreign tourists crashed off a flyover near Venice and burst into flames. 3 children, including a baby, were among the dead, while 18 others were injured.
Authorities said the bus veered off the road on Tuesday evening, crashed through a barrier, fell onto power lines and caught fire. The cause of the accident was unclear. Venice City Councillor Renato Barrasso said one possibility was that the driver, a 40-year-old Italian who was among the dead, had been ill before the crash. Barrasso warned that the death toll could rise as several of those injured in the crash were in critical condition in hospital. 5 of the victims identified were Ukrainian and 1 was German. The bus was also carrying passengers from France and Croatia. Italy has suffered a number of deadly bus crashes in recent years. In 2017, 16 people on board a bus carrying Hungarian students died in an accident near the northern city of Verona, while 40 people died in 2013 when a bus plunged off a bridge in southern Italy.
The French government will be holding emergency meetings this week to examine surging numbers of reported cases of bedbugs. The infestation has become a major public health concern as France gears up to welcome millions of visitors for the 2024 Summer Olympics and the Rugby World Cup.
On Wednesday, the Transport Ministry held a meeting with transport and passenger organizations to assess the situation and strengthen measures to combat the problem, while an interministerial meeting is expected to take place on Friday. People first reported sightings of bed bugs over the summer in hotels and movie theatres. More recently, the blood-sucking insects have also been spotted in the Paris metro, high-speed trains and at the airport. Bedbugs were largely eradicated in France in the 1950s, but they have made a resurgence in recent decades due to high population densities and more mass transit.
The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to remove House Speaker Kevin McCarthy less than a year after his election. He was ousted from the role in a 216 to 210 vote on Tuesday evening, the first time in U.S. history that the House has opted to remove its leader from office.
The vote underscores growing turmoil in the Republican Party, with its hard-right faction sparring with McCarthy on several occasions since he first became Speaker in January. He most recently struck a deal with Senate Democrats to fund government agencies. McCarthy has announced that he will not run for Speaker again, and there is no clear successor to oversee the House Republican majority. North Carolina Republican Patrick McHenry has been appointed interim Speaker. He has put the House in recess for a week. Congress now has just over 40 days to agree on a deal to avoid another potential government shutdown.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.